couldn't see how I made it through. But then I finally realized it was all because of you. So I gave him my life for a life of Christ to be transformed and be renewed. This is my story, my testimony, how I sold out, yeah. Sold out, sold out, sold out. Sold out.
I'm Armand McDonald Sr. This is my story, and I'm completely sold out for Jesus. I was born August 18th, 1977 to Hubert McDonald and Celeste Barton. I grew up in Kansas City down in Parker Square, one of the, what they would consider one of the worst parts of the city, or one of the crime-filled areas of Kansas City. When I was younger, I was kind of into sports, like baseball, football, kind of played around with basketball, but ultimately I ended up in music when I got into the 6th grade, influenced by my older siblings and their, at the time, band director, Mr. Reginald May. Growing up, we went to church quite often, and I thought at that time that I really knew who Jesus was. But throughout my life, I kind of did my thing in school, had friends. Some of my friends that I grew up with used to call me church boy because they knew that's where I went to school at all the time. Some of my good friends that knew me very well knew where I was, and they didn't try to influence me like that. Some people did, but I didn't get caught up in that life that a lot of my friends did. Lost a lot of friends growing up to drugs, selling drugs in jail, and some of them died at an early age from being in that street life. I thank God that I wasn't influenced by what they were doing, or never have had money influence me like that. As far as me going to church growing up, it was more so one of those things where your parents say you gotta go, you go. So I was there whenever the doors of the church was open. I was there. Business meeting, I was there. Didn't learn anything at that point, but I was there. And looking back, I would say I think for me that became a deterrent for me, because my good situations outweighed my bad situations. I wasn't a troubled child or didn't get in trouble in school like that, but I would say band was one of the things that was an outlet for me that kept me from going into the wrong direction. Also, I attended a camp called the Together Center with Gary Thomas, who passed away last year. And I would say between his influence and some of the adults that I grew up around in the neighborhood I grew up in, I believe that carried me into my adulthood and allowed me to be where I am now. But growing up, that was another outlet that I took to stay out of the streets, stay out of trouble, and it really, really helped me. One of the situations that I can recall growing up is kind of a funny situation. I got in trouble at school. I literally accidentally took a water gun to school because I had it the day before. And my sister my teacher called home from school. I was in 5th grade. Teacher called home and was telling my mom my sister got the phone call. And I did something to her, made her mad. And she told me she was going to tell them. But I didn't believe her until my mom got home. And my friends that I grew up with laugh at me now. My friend Dwayne, a friend of mine named Terrell. Whenever we see each other in public now, we always laugh about it because they laughed at me because I was the only 5th grade, I think, in history to get put out. And ended up going to live with my dad at that point in time. Learned a lot while I was there. Went back and lived with my mom throughout the rest of my elementary school and high school years. The next situation that happened to me that was actually bad for me is on Christmas Day, I went to my sister's house. Mom let me drive her car. Went to my sister's house, and I had, at the time, my stepbrother in the car with me, who had I think a mirror or something fell on him and cut his leg pretty bad. And he had stitches, and we were driving, coming back to the house after going to pick up a cheesecake, and he made a sudden move, and I turned and looked at him, and when I turned back around, I wrecked my mom's car. In my mind, I'm like, okay, they got insurance, they'll get it fixed. That wasn't a big deal at that point in time, but her husband at the time and her told me I needed to get a job. In my mind, I was like, okay, that ain't no biggie. So I was looking for jobs, when nobody hired me. Then I got myself into some trouble. I almost spent 7 years of my life behind bars, but I thank God that my dad was able to get an attorney for me that got me out of that trouble. That's another thing that saved my life, made me refocus everything that I was doing. And after that happened, I just kind of refocused on the things that I wanted to do and how I wanted to do them. I didn't want to let my parents down. I didn't want to let anybody down that was in my immediate circle. So I decided that, okay, I'm gonna go to college. Got ready to go to school. The trouble kind of stopped me from doing some things that I wanted to do. One of them was going into the military. I tried twice. I was going into the Army Reserves, never could get that jump started. Then I was going to the Navy. The day I was leaving, I was supposed to leave, and ended up not being able to go because of that situation. And once that hit me, some things changed. Now I'm gonna go back just a little bit from when I was in high school. After I graduated, got out and taken care of. I've been in music all this time and got offered a scholarship to go to Missouri Western. This is a university now, it was State College then, but now it's State University. So went up there, got in school, had fun up there, loved the band up there, learned quite a bit, and then they gave me all my scholarship money in financial aid first semester. It was a mistake in the financial aid office. They couldn't fix it. And the band director, Dr. Hinton, called and talked to my dad over Christmas break and told me that he told me he needed me, then he told him he needed me there for band, but they could not figure out where I was going to be able to stay. I kind of waited to the last minute to say I was going to school, and because I did that, it caused me to miss out on opportunities. One was getting housing. So me and my friends that I went to school with, we ended up getting housing to be able to live on campus. So we wouldn't have to worry about living on campus because they ran out of housing. Once we did that, we worked, went to school, and still had fun. At that time, I stopped going to church. I felt like that even through my trouble that I got in, my pastor at the time, Apostle Willard Trumbull, rest her soul, and Pastor Michael Trumbull, rest his soul, both wrote a letter to the judge for me on my behalf. And once my attorney told me what that said, what the letter said, it was after the case was over and everything. Once the attorney told me what the letter said, it brought joy to my heart that they looked at me like that, because I never knew. There was a lot of things that I didn't participate in church because I just didn't get to. And it was a lot of, for me, it felt like it was a lot of stipulations on things that I wanted to do with the youth as far as participating, even down to ushering, or even just to specifically just go on trips with the youth in the church or with the church. However, I didn't get to participate in those things. So after I got old enough to make a decision to stop going to church, I stopped. I was coming home every weekend from college, and it was actually for a girl. It wasn't even for church. And when I would come home, I would be here for the weekend, and I'd zoom back out on Sunday to go back to school Monday through Friday. And Friday, or we would have football games we had to play at, or we'd have to go out and perform somewhere. And as soon as I got back, I'm hitting the road to come back here. And I felt like at that point in time, after me and the girl broke up, that I really didn't have the support of the church. I felt like they didn't like me, and I felt I was hurt by the church. And one Sunday, went out with my friends that Saturday, hung out and got up And every Sunday, I was living with my dad and stepmom at the time. And every Sunday, my dad would wake me up. You going to church? I was getting up going to church at one point, then I just stopped. Just abruptly stopped. And one Sunday I came home, it was about maybe a year and a half after I came back home from school. I think I was about to be 20 years old, I want to say. And he asked me a question. And I felt like something was missing for about 8 months straight. I just felt like something was missing because I wasn't going to church on Sunday. I'll make excuses. I'll go hang out with my friends at the park. We would go to the mall. We would do all kinds of other stuff versus me going to church. Or I would sleep in until about 11:30, 12 o'clock. And then make sure I was gone when they got home, just so I wouldn't hear this. At this time, my dad was the assistant pastor of the church that he was in. And at that time, I really didn't understand his gifting or his calling on his life. I just knew he was an assistant pastor and he brought the word. But I never knew what prophecy was at that. I didn't understand what prophecy was. I won't say I didn't know what it was. I didn't understand what prophecy was and what things were being foretold to me in my life. He asked me a question. He said, "Why aren't you in church?" And I couldn't really give him an answer because I didn't really know at the time. And he said, "All this time you were coming down here on the weekends, going to church, was that for that girl?" And at that time I lied and said no. But after sitting down and really thinking about it, that's who it was for. I wasn't going to church for me because my mind was, okay, get out of church. We're going to go get something to eat and then we're going to go hang out. In this case, when he talked to me, that tug that was on my heart about 8 months before got a little bit stronger and a little bit harder. So I decided to try to go back to church and ended up going to another church in Kansas City, Metropolitan AME Zion, where I was actually just sitting there. I was really a bump on the log there because I wasn't doing anything. And right before me and my wife got married, I was talking to the pastor about doing things in church, and he was happy about it, but I never got around to doing it. Then one day, after I got married, of course, we talked to the pastor, got married, we exchanged our vows. My dad ended up marrying us, Chief Apostle Hubert McDonald. He ended up marrying us. And when after we got married, it seemed like everything just something was missing. And I couldn't put my hand on what it was at that point in time because I had been in church. I was going to church, but I wasn't learning anything. I don't think I was really focused in church at that point in time. But he called me and asked me what was I doing over at that church. My dad called me. And when I tried to explain to him what I was supposed to be doing, he said, "So are you doing it or not?" And I said, "Well, no, I talked to the pastor about it and he was telling me that I was going to do it, but then all of a sudden his son ended up on there, on the drums." And he said, "Well, the Lord wants you to come and play for me at my church." It took me 6 months to finally make a decision to go over there. Long story short, on that point, I ended up at Evangel Spiritual Temple, or EST International Ministries. The situation that really broke the straw that broke the camel's back with Metropolitan was I just wasn't learning anything, and the way that they moved around with as far as putting their pastors in position or putting their pastors over church, they did a voting process. And it was people that were at a breaking point with the ministry that I knew that voted him back in. And I was like, well, why did y'all do that? And what it was people were just comfortable with what was going on. At this point, I was uncomfortable. So I decided to leave. My wife stayed. And it was kind of a balancing act for me at that point because I wanted to please God. I wanted to do what my dad asked me to do, but at the same time, I wanted to make sure my marriage was in pocket. Needless to say, I argued the point with my wife and it made her hunker down and stay. I was told to leave her alone and let her make the decision on her own and leave her alone and allow the Lord to move her. So in the meantime, we're trying to raise our oldest son, Daniel. I'm working. Seems like nothing is still not going right for me at this point in time. And I was jumping from job to job, wasn't stable, wasn't managing my money right. I stopped paying tithes after I stopped going to church, which prior to that, when I got my first job, I would pay my tithes consistently. Every time I got paid, tithes. My good friend who's like my brother, Will, he the one that kind of pushed me into doing that because we worked together, went to high school together, grew up together, and I was seeing him doing it. And every time he would get paid, he would say, man, I need to pull my tithes out. And I'm like, okay. And he explained to me, you know, I knew what tithes was, but he explained to me why he did it. And it caught my attention. I was like, okay, we can make this happen. But once I stopped, it's like everything kind of fell out. Like I said, it couldn't keep a job, wasn't stable. I felt like I was letting my family down because I had a wife and a son. Didn't have a place to stay for real. Tore my car up. It was just so much that was going on that had me balled up into a situation. And one day I sat down and I thought about it and I prayed and asked the Lord, what am I doing wrong? And this particular car I had, I had wrecked it and got it fixed, but the front end was still messed up on it. The frame was bent on it. So with that being said, the tires kept wearing out. So at one point I caught a flat tire. I think I was going to a job interview and I caught a flat tire, and this stranger, which was an angel of the Lord, pulled up in this car that was similar to mine. It was full with trash from top to bottom. It looked raggedy. The trunk was full with trash. This angel pulled out a brand new spare tire that fit my car and confirmed everything that my dad had told me that I needed to do in order to get my life back in order. And he told me if I followed this, that I would have longevity in life and that I would be great in what the Lord has asked me to do and has called and chosen me to do. And that I wouldn't have to worry about a thing. Even after that, it still took me a little bit, and it took me a little bit to get it back and get myself back in order. But that day, after I got that tire on and went to that interview, came back and talked to my dad when he got home from work, he wasn't astonished. He just told me straight out, I told you that. And then he explained to me who I was entertaining at that point, and it opened my eyes up to a few things. Because just to go back when I was born, I'm not supposed to be here right now. And just really thinking about it, we kind of discussed this a few days ago at our deli about people serving God and people praising God that have been through some things. And when I was born with fluid on my brain. And the doctors had all pretty much given up on me. Didn't think I was going to last, and if they told my parents if I did live, I would be mentally retarded or permanently disabled. I would need a caregiver for the rest of my life, or however long I was allowed to be here, and that I possibly wouldn't live to see my 11th birthday. And I guess I took my life for granted at some point because I stopped thinking about that and reverencing God through that. And thinking about it now, they always say hindsight is always 20/20. You think about the things that you go through or the things that you've done in life and your successes and your failures, and just to think about that was a success God spared me. God kept me here for a reason. And I know what my reason is. And my dad prayed for me. He said he went out the room, the doctor told him that, and he was looking in, I guess into the nursery on me, and he was praying. And when they went back and looked again, because they were going to put a stent for a drain, but they said that probably wasn't going to help. And I know a good friend of mine, her son has the same thing going on. I have another friend that has lived through it, but they're both in a position in their life where some of them need assistance in certain areas, or if certain things are going with them health wise where it's hard for them to get through certain times of the year, mostly when it's cold outside. In my case, I don't have that stent. I've been able to live a healthy life. I've had a couple of surgeries in my adult life, but I've never been in a position where I've had to stay in the hospital for long periods of time. A few years ago, I want to say it was 2015, I believe, they thought I had Hodgkin's lymphoma. I had the pre-stages of that, which is called mesenteric adenitis, where your lymph nodes get inflamed, and once they get inflamed, they can cause infection to go into your body, which leads to the Hodgkin's lymphoma, which is cancer. So I was actually at the alternative school in Center School District talking to the principal up there, and I got the phone call, and I was actually scared at that point when I got the phone call because I didn't know what to expect. But when the nurse told me that everything came back negative, there's no cancer, and my lymph nodes had went down and they were expecting full recovery, no issues, I just yelled out, "Thank you, Jesus." And the nurse said, "Yes, it's a blessing." She said the nurse had been praying for me and I didn't know it. But from that moment on, I kind of understood I won't say I understood a lot more about myself and how I needed to live my life. And that led me to really, at that point, selling out. I thought I had before because I was committed to doing what I was doing in the church, being the youth minister at the church, over the music ministry at the church, working within the ministry, working hand in hand with my dad, with my siblings that work in the ministry, doing quite a bit of stuff. And I thought I had sold out at that point in time, and I didn't. I didn't realize I hadn't sold out until I got that phone call. Because prior to that, me being sick, I didn't know what was going on. Me having issues, I just thought it was just like a bug or something. But I ended up in the emergency room when the doctor told me my lymph nodes were still the same as they were when I came in before, and there was something going on. I didn't get scared, but I asked him, "Do I have to have surgery?" He said, "It's possible, but we don't know yet. I need you to go see your doctor as soon as possible. And find out what's going on, then you can go from there. They'll tell you what your next steps is." That led up to the diagnosis coming back as being nothing was there and I was good. Now, I've always considered myself to be a stand-up guy, truthful with myself, truthful with people around me, and keep it what we call 100 with everybody. But I wasn't keeping it 100 with myself because I wasn't fully trusting God in everything that I did. I've been, like I said previously, I've been in music all my life. Been told quite a few things about what I'm gonna do, and I was running after somebody else's dream. I've been out of town, in and out of town doing things, been on international TV, playing with this particular person in this group. And I had a dream one day, and I was yelled at. But we was at the church. My dad and my stepmom was there. My stepmom was doing something in the pulpit, and my dad turned around and yelled at me and told me I needed to get it together, and he was tired of my mess, and I was going to lose everything if I didn't. And it scared me. So when I went and talked to my dad about it, he interpreted the dream and told me that was the Lord. He just used him as a familiar face so it wouldn't scare me more than what it did. And when he explained to me that I had a jewel in my hand that the Lord wanted me to polish and hold on to and not give it away, and that was my last chance to get it right, I really sold out at that point. At that time, my wife was there with me. My children was there with me. We had more children, Armand Jr. And Naira. And I want to say Caleb was along at that time. And I just gave up everything outside the church that I was doing and decided to focus on everything that I was doing in the church. And that was, like I said, the youth ministry, the music ministry, and just working in the ministry, period. Once I got that mindset and understood what selling out what really was, being able to sacrifice and give up certain things that I wanted in order to do it the way the Lord wanted me to do it, helped me in that point. I got more stability as far as work goes. I was able to finish a degree that I had started working on as soon as I got out of high school. I was able to experience more of God and less of myself. I was able to experience the Holy Spirit on a more intimate level versus just surface like it was when I was younger. And just thinking back on the time that I feel like I wasted, because I feel like I should be more advanced than what I am now. But I'll just look at it as a learning lesson as well, because it could have been a whole lot worse. I couldn't be here. Could have lost my life. The Lord could have said, well, you don't want to do it my way, so it's done. I'm going to give it to somebody else. And again, once I decided just to do it the way He wanted to do it, it's been amazing. I've experienced so much growth in what I'm doing now currently, as far as music, as far as the things that God has asked us to do. Our group, The Lord's Anointed, has put out an EP. We've put out an album that has gotten that had quite a good buzz. The Lord had us on the move for 2 years straight, just going, doing things, getting exposure, going here, going there, and He brought it to a stop for a moment. And once He brought it to a stop, He had us regroup, refocus, and recreated our sound. No, I won't say recreated, perfected our sound to where He wanted to be. And I believe He did that through prayer and us calling out to Him on what was the next move. And I believe without that in my life, I don't think I would have really sold out. I think I would have been doing the same thing, running around playing for everybody else, or playing everybody else's music, or just playing for everybody else versus focusing in on true ministry. And that's being one-on-one with God, between you and Him, and really allowing Him to move you forward. No, I don't always get it right. None of us do. But I thank God for the opportunity for correction and chastisement, because it allows me to see me for who I am and be able to look in that mirror. I always try to teach the youth that your good should outweigh your bad. When your good outweighs your bad, it balances you out in life. And for me, it just took me to another level. Again, thinking about, I'm not supposed to be here. I'm not supposed to be functional with being here. But God saw fit through Jesus and the Holy Spirit to keep me here. And again, once I sold out, everything just balanced out. And I want to say I didn't really probably sell out until I was about, I think, 33 or 34 years old. So all that time prior to that I was in church and learning and understanding and really calling myself doing it for the Lord, I wasn't, because I we would go out of town, we would miss, we would do different things, and I didn't have my focus. And once I got the laser focus in on what we were supposed to do, more distractions came that almost caused me to lose it. I almost gave it up because I was trying to figure out what I was doing wrong or why these people kept coming against me. But it was just a trick of the enemy to try to get me knock me off my square and keep me from doing it the way the Lord wanted it to be done. And through that learning process, I was able to do things more efficiently and more directly. And I just thank God. He just opened up opportunities and different things for us to come together and be able to build something that he's put in my heart that he gave me to cherish. And again, I just thank him for just all he's done. I thank him for just allowing me to see about to be 44 years. Again, the doctor said I wouldn't live to see 11 years old. They said if I did, I'd be in what they consider a vegetative state or mentally retarded. And I'm none of the above. My siblings love me. My mama loves me. My daddy loves me. My family loves me. My kids love me. But most of all, Jesus loves me. And I believe now, in this part of my life, I'm truly sold out to what he's asked me to do. I have opportunities to grow, but at the same time, I believe I fulfilled a lot of things that I wanted to fulfill in my life. He's given me youth as far as my age goes. I don't think anybody in our bloodline ages real fast. So I know with that being said, I still have opportunity to complete the work that he's given me. He's keeping me here for a reason, and I know what he's keeping me here for. So stay tuned for what we have to come and what our ministry has to come. And that's all. That's it.